an email? Maybe? I think. I don't know. I don't actually know how this works.
I mean, you're the expert.
I'm the expert. We need that's a sad state of affairs. Okay.
I mean, neither of us stream, so
That is true. Well, if doing a thing at all makes you an expert, then I suppose I'm an expert. But
there you go.
I feel like there should be more qualifications for such things. All right. So,
How's everybody in the chat today? See some familiar faces.
Woo woo!
all right. I think should we also cut this down and make it into a dialogue box episode?
That works for me.
Okay. So we'll probably ignore the chat for like an hour while we talk, and then we'll cut that into the dialogue box episode, and I'll use it on stream, and then we'll do Q&A with the chat afterwards. That seems about right. Cool.
That way I can actually look at you and instead of looking back and forth. Okay.
Yeah, I know, because that can get
That
distracting
doesn't
too.
exist.
All right. So how do we start this? I
Do you
don't
want
really.
me to introduce it?
Do you want to introduce the dialogue? Do it. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Hello and welcome to the Dialogue Box, a podcast with Gwen Frey and Chris Light. But Chris isn't here, so you get Alan Hazelden and Corey Martin instead.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. It's good to be finally talking to you. I know you've been incredibly busy. You just launched a Monsters Expedition.
Busy? What? No, that's not how launching games works.
No, how does launching games work? Because you just launched 2 weeks ago,
Just
right?
click a button, right? And that's it. And the game's been done for months, and you click the button, and then people play it, and then there's no bugs, and everything's lovely. That's definitely how releasing games works.
Oh wow.
No, and it hasn't been so bad, I guess. The stream of email support has trickled. There's still some minor issues like save file corruption, but easy come, easy go. But the game's good. People like the game. People like the game enough that they don't that when it crashes, when their computer crashes and it seems to delete their save file, they send a nice email rather than a mean email. And then they email me their save file, and then I fix it for them.
That's good.
Yeah, so that could be worse.
Yeah.
And having that there's like a save backup system in the game, right? Does that avoid any headaches there, I'm guessing?
It means that when they send me their save file, there is a backup to recover from. But actually, the worst problem is when it's means that there isn't any actual data that's been lost. It's just the save file got confused when it restarted at the wrong when a computer crashes at the wrong time, and so then the game starts up and goes, "Oh, I don't see the list of save files anywhere. I guess I better start a new save file," even though there's a perfectly serviceable save file on the disk. So we just need to patch it so that it actually looks for recovery files before deciding that it's a fresh start.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not the worst possible outcome. Like, yeah. It sounds like I mean, considering you just had a launch where you came out on every platform at the same time and like a ton of Apple devices and Steam at the same time.
2 platforms at the same time.
Oh, I thought you didn't do consoles as well?
Oh, no. I'm
Oh, okay.
not a masochist. I mean,
But when you say 2 platforms, you're talking about still PC, Mac OS, tvOS, iOS. Like those aren't all.
but it's PC and Apple Arcade, and Apple Arcade has like we did have a crash on the newest MacBooks, so that was fun. That would have been nice to catch that before launch, but that's fixed now. But yeah, Apple Arcade, kind of most of the problems are the same, and we ironed out all the differences between iOS and tvOS and macOS before launch.
Well, that's good.
More predictable probably than PC, where everyone's got a different configuration.
Well, I just
Yes.
figured there's got to be. I mean, I guess it's not as bad as Android because there's fewer Apple devices, but that does mean you have to figure out you're launching with touch controls as well as PC controls at the same time. Um, and I just imagine there's got to be between. Maybe there is a lot of shared lineage between all the Apple devices. I just assumed it would be a massive pain.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't not a massive pain, but
Yeah,
like it's not the same kind of pain as doing a console launch would have been because Apple Arcade only had one set of certs for all three iOS, tvOS, macOS.
I see. Okay.
And I think the real pain would have been having to do multiple sets of certs simultaneously. So by avoiding a console launch, and we will do a console launch, spoilers. I mean, probably, who knows? Could all get hit by a truck and then drown under rising water. So
I think
uh,
your game will do really well on the Switch. I really like it. It's the kind of game I would love to play on a plane or something like that too. Like well, in a world where there are planes, but like in general, something about that game. It's cozy. I think it'll do super well on the Switch. You did quite well on Steam too. I was pretty impressed.
yeah, we did like I think we did about 10 times better than previous game launches, which
Mhm.
is more a sign of how niche those previous games were than how much better than like this one hit like a massive audience.
Mhm.
But we did pretty okay.
Do you think how much of that do you think is so you think this game did better than the other ones because it was less niche? I mean, how much of it do you think is 2020? Like so
No,
many.
I think mostly it was the game being less niche, plus this game just having more pre-release hype.
Yeah,
Honestly,
more scope, more budget is like also people who might be a little sensitive to like, oh, this looks like a mobile game or whatever, like wouldn't dismiss this one as quickly because it's like clearly got a much higher budget. And,
Yeah,
um,
this definitely didn't look like a mobile game. Um, well, yeah. I mean, it had
and
a
I
gentle
don't
look
even
to it.
believe in that as a like derogatory thing. I don't mean to
No.
say
Well,
that. Just like it's
it'll eventually. I mean, games that are on phones are cheaper, and so if you launch a game that looks like a phone game, people expect a lower price point. I think your art does position your games in a certain sort of a way. It sets expectations for consumers when they see a certain art style. That's why I said like the voxel or pixel art look makes me think, oh, this is going to be an indie game. It'll probably be more difficult than say, like I would imagine just by looking at Bonfire Peaks, the game you're launching, just by looking at that art style, I would think, okay, this game is probably going to be harder than this other game, Monsters Expedition, which it is. Like I think the art style for your two games.
I don't know. The hardest puzzles in Monsters Expedition are definitely harder than the hardest puzzles in my game. But to
That is
get to
that's
true
the end of it,
true. But I think your game will be perceived as harder.
because it's
and
harder out
that's
of the
all art
gate.
style.
It's not art style, it is the pacing of the puzzles. Like you have more hard puzzles on the critical path.
Right, right.
And I think even like structurally, the fact that you have like a set of levels you can choose from, and there's like some in this hub here, will push more people to be completionists than my game where you solve a puzzle, and then by virtue of having solved the puzzle, you're not at the last puzzle that you skipped. So it's kind of subconsciously pushing you to press on rather than go back.
Mhm.
Whereas seeing a list of 4 levels, even if you only need to solve 2 to progress, I think more people will feel like they should be solving all of the puzzles before going on.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, I think that's true as well. Also, there's nothing like is it when I last I mean I haven't played the newest demo. I played the last demo, but there was nothing that said that you explicitly like, hey, you're ready to go on. You kind of figure out that you have enough boxes to go climb to the next area, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and we've all been like, or like at least some subset of gamers have been trained to like to sweep an entire game before they move on. It's just what you do.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, just if I think maybe some of it comes down to just like signaling, hey, like forward progress is what you should have your eye on, or is an option at least. If you're, however you're enjoying the game, play it that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I found it interesting that well, I think no matter what, your game will be perceived as more difficult because it is more difficult out of the gate. Like a Monsters Expedition had a very gentle on ramp, you know, like
And
a
there's just such a
very gentle.
nice flow in a Monsters Expedition of like there's no break between puzzles. It's just because it's seamless throughout, and because some of them some of them are explicitly not even trying to stump you at all.
Right.
It's like there's
I
a
think
nice
that is
flow.
actually a big part of it, which is like because there's not like super delineated levels, we can get away with more trivial levels and it doesn't feel the same way that if I opened up a puzzle game and it had like just a sequence of levels and the first 10 levels were basically trivial, I would go, oh, maybe this game isn't for me.
Hmm.
Whereas just making it continuous lessens that negative feeling, which to me is negative, but to some people is going to be exactly what they want. But like,
And there's something satisfying about the the gameplay just in and of itself, though, like audiovisual feedback and stuff of when you're like pushing trees over and stuff. So there's something satisfying about that that makes it like, even if you're pushing over a tree just to create a bridge and there's no challenge, it still feels like there's a nice progression feel that I, at least I got from that.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I really like the game feel. I like the music and the general feel of moving around feels really good. Uh, it that definitely adds a lot. Like it just feels good to push over a tree. Like that's an important kind of like that core loop is really important. I dig that. I think there is just a very gentle on ramp. I think there's a risk in having you go from one puzzle to another immediately, and that usually the risk doing that is that people never want to back out. They never in something like Baba Is you go to a level select screen, you click a puzzle, you go play that puzzle, and then when you're done, you get kicked back out to the level select screen. And that
mm-hmm.
gets people used to the idea of backing out and going back to the level select screen. It doesn't feel negative when you back out. Whereas
I'm not sure I agree with that
compared
because
to
I
compared to just having you go from one puzzle to another, that's a lot. I'm telling you, because with Kine, like getting people to back out, I think was even harder than something like Baba Is You, because you were accustomed to the idea of being kicked out to a level select screen. It didn't feel like failure when you went out as much.
yes, no, like there's definitely something there, but I think Bad With You is an interesting example because I feel like Empoli has mentioned the fact that people will get super fixated on one level,
Mm.
and because it's just there and they're staring at it, even though they have like 10 other levels unlocked, they'll hit their head against this one level rather than trying something else.
Man,
Um,
that's such a hard problem too. Because like, I mean, it's something I've struggled with in Kine. It's something that I do it in every puzzle game. Like I refuse to give up
mhm,
a puzzle. I imagine you
mhm.
probably experienced it too to some degree. Like people would start
Oh
playing
yeah,
an island and they
for
wouldn't want
sure.
to back out.
I actually think Gwen, you're in a really good place to solve this problem with lab rats because you can just make your AI kick you out to the menu when somebody's taking too long.
I don't think I'll be doing that. I think that might be.
I think
You have to be
consider it.
careful about how
I think you should
patronizing.
consider it.
Maybe I'll think. I'll think about it. Maybe for some of the puzzles, actually, that might be interesting in certain
Yeah.
yeah,
places.
ideally,
Which,
if you can make it feel like, oh, this is a joke and not this is like
yeah, it's
this is patronizing, like you say, like to have it be like, oh, it's funny that this mean spirited thing happened to me, as opposed to like a judgment of your performance.
well. The thing is, people tend to people respond to something as being funny or good if they're having fun with the game, and if they're not, they respond to it as being patronizing. And this is true for all kinds of things. Like, not that many people have played Lab Rat, but I've watched the people who are reasonably good at it really enjoy the stats. They're like, oh, when I'm doing poorly, this I don't feel so bad because I see a lot of other people didn't get this puzzle. Whereas, sorry, in Lab Rat, the puzzle game I'm working on now, for people who are listening, there's statistics on the screen that show you how many people have completed the puzzle, and there's different metrics around like here's who's currently playing the same puzzle you are on Steam. And this was an experiment. I wanted to see how people would respond if they could literally see what percentage of people who tried a puzzle completed it. Would that be fun? And overwhelmingly, it is not fun if you are one of the people who is struggling with a puzzle. You find that extremely patronizing. But yeah, and I'll say on Kine, I did an experiment where if you spent too long on a puzzle and you start beating your head against like a wall too much or something like that, the other characters would start barking at you, being like, "Hey, come play with me. You're clearly not having fun over there." Like I experimented with different lines that the other characters would say, and they would just pop up a little speech bubble on the screen. People didn't like it, man.
Yeah.
Nobody liked that.
At least it's better than like that was one of the few things. Like I love The Last Guardian, but there was a few issues. One of which is like if you take a certain amount of time on a puzzle, the narrator will start giving you hints with unprompted. And I was having a nice time being stuck and did not want it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of annoying, but I get that they wanted a certain sense of flow in the game, and you just sometimes you choose a bad solution to that difficult problem.
I started doing that in Lab Rat, but in an evil way. Like if you get stuck for too long, the AI gives you hints and they're stupid. It's like,
wait, that's based on taking too long? I thought it happened in a specific
it'll
level.
happen no matter what in that one level, but it'll happen again later. You'll see. Because how far did you get in Lab Rat? Did you complete the first section?
I played the recent build you sent.
Yeah. All right. For people who, I'm doing a very closed beta with like 30 people for Lab Rat right now, of which Alan is one of the people. And then I'll be opening it up to another closed beta for everybody that signed up on the, if you go to labrat.study, you can sign up for, to be part of the Lab Rat beta. And you can beta test the game. I think I'll probably be doing that in December after I've, launched Kine on Steam. We should probably promote our stuff because that's what this is about. Kine is coming to Steam October 19th. Is that the month? Yes, October 19th. And we're doing this. I'm here today chatting with Alan and Corey because we're about to launch. Corey and I are about to launch our games into the Steam Festival. Corey is launching Bonfire Peaks into the Steam Festival. This is a game that's upcoming. I don't know. Have you announced when you're launching it, Corey?
Just early
2021.
Yeah.
Early 2021. This is Alan's, for people in the chat. It occurs to me this will probably be in the podcast too. You guys have no idea who we are. Corey's launching Bonfire Peaks. Alan has just launched a Monsters Expedition, which is another glorious little puzzle game that you should absolutely check out. And Alan is trying to be experimenting with publishing. I believe you're publishing Bonfire Peaks. Is that right?
That's right. So this is the first game that I'm publishing that isn't something that is like made by me, or like I'm part of the core team, and like I'm just coming in later and going, hey, this is a cool project. Want some help? And still in the process of finding out what publishing a game like that is like. But I mean, so far we've just announced it so far, and that's been great. So I'm assuming everything else is going to be.
Well, and that's the most amazing thing about how Alan just shipped a game that involved a lot of hard work leading up to its release and has involved a normal amount of support post-release, and the whole time has also been supporting my game's development. So Alan needs a vacation.
It does sound like you need a vacation, Alan. What is but just to wrap this up, so if you are listening to this out there, please take a moment and wishlist Bonfire Peaks and wishlist Kine and wishlist Lab Rat while you're at it, and play a Monsters Expedition, because that's what we're here today to talk about. So Alan, why are you publishing games now? What got you into this?
I don't know.
You're like,
Corey, why am I publishing games?
I think you said it casually in conversation one night while probably not thinking clearly, and I took you up on it. I knew just the fact is I was weighing options for talking to different publishers. I met with some publishers at PAX East, the last event before everything happened. And I was not sure what to do with the game, and Alan suggested that he publish it, and I couldn't imagine somebody who understands the game better to be working with, and that's like definitely an important part. So, because even if someone believes in the game, like for someone to give you the critical feedback on its design that I can get from Alan is yeah, it just doesn't exist. So it's been really helpful in making the game that much more special. And Alan also helped to bring on some external help to make the game prettier. Mary Kalegi and Zach Suarez. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing either correctly.
Let me ask those people how they pronounce their names, because you do this every time.
Yeah. But yeah, they've made it so much nicer looking, and
I love it. I love the tilt shift look that you went for there, and just in general, the game is looking really lovely. I can't wait to play. I'm gonna play the demo again once the Steam Festival started and my stuff's all live.
And we should mention the demo is live right now. It's the game's participating in the festival, but the demo is available now and will be available after the festival.
Cool. Yeah,
and it's a good demo. I think I watched somebody play it earlier today, and I think it's still like a good demo is like 30 to 60 minutes, and I think this game is this demo is probably longer than that for most people. That's fine.
Why do you think that? Do you think longer than that leaves people satisfied and they don't want any more?
Partly it is because a good demo ends on a strong, hey, thanks for playing, please wishlist this. And anyone who stops playing before that isn't going to hit that screen. And hopefully if they stop playing before that, they still had a good time and they still wishlist it. But
and you're right. I think an hour is a good, reasonable play session to expect out of somebody. So
I wouldn't guess that it was that long, but I'm glad to hear that it's that long, because
I mean, it's a good sign for like the final game having a lot of content, which final game will do. This new demo has like it covers an extra mechanic that the previous demo didn't, but there's a bunch more mechanics later in the game that are even cooler than the stuff teased in the demo. And there's a lot of cool levels.
It's hard to want to show like if somebody understandably gets the impression from early levels of like how much could there be to this, it's nice to show them a little glimpse of it, but then also to save like the best stuff for when it's out.
This is something I've been thinking about a lot for Lab Rat, because it's something I'm experimenting with, is the idea of you have the intro levels that introduce the mechanics, but I feel like within 15 minutes we need to blindside somebody with something that's like, here, a taste of what's coming later, just to give people that idea that that there is more to the game, that this is building towards something. Because I think it is possible that people won't realize it's building towards something. It's one of the reasons why a lot of puzzle games will show you like a massive unwinnable puzzle early on, or there's something that you just don't have the information to, some kind of hint, some kind of indication that there is something coming later that's bigger. I've always really liked that. Or I think that being said, I think one of my favorite demos for puzzles so far was the pedestrian one, because it really did, like, it felt like it was nice, there was a flow, there was a gentle arc where it was slowly introducing mechanics, and then right before the end it was like, by the way, 6 more new mechanics, the end. Like, just rapid fire. That was, I think, that's another nice. Good way to do it. And then I got off that and was like, I should buy this.
I've heard only good things about it. I should get around to it.
I think somebody in the chat just mentioned Snakebird that tends to do that quite a bit. Or Snakebird did that they had a challenge level that you hit really early.
Yes. Yeah, like that's interesting because that's in the context of the game rather than in the context of a demo. And I think it hits differently there. But like it is always a super nice trick of like going, okay, well now like you're slowly getting acclimatized with these levels, but like here's this ridiculousness.
Yeah.
But the thing with Snakebird is like and then it doesn't drop back off. So it's not like a suddenly hard level and then okay, let's get reasonable again. It's just no, now the game is that hard.
Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking about this pacing stuff a lot lately. I think how do you like for the first couple levels of Lab Rat, we have one that's just like here's a tutorial, and then one that's like a little bit harder, and then one that's super easy again. Because I found like if you can give people a little bit of a sine wave early on, so you can be like, this game will be hard. I don't want to mislead you, but here, breathe. I think that helps a little bit. Been thinking about in general different ways you can indicate that there's new mechanics coming later. Because if you look at the stats on Steam, most people will make a judgment about your game in like half an hour to an hour. Like, and if you can't hook them, if you can't convince them that there's like quite a bit more coming later on, I think it's just something that you have to. It's difficult because you have to teach somebody what the mechanics are while also indicating that this is building towards something, that there's something else further on. That's not something I have a solution to. It's something I don't think I did super well necessarily within Kine.
It's probably something that you have to solve on a game by game basis, right? That it's like there's a different answer each time.
Yeah, probably. Sorry, that's the end of that. That's the end of my thoughts on that. But yeah, we're both coming to the Steam Festival. Bonfire Peaks is coming to the Steam Festival. Kine will be in the Steam Festival. This is a big one for me because like Kine obviously came out on all the other platforms about a year ago, and so
wait, it did? I didn't even notice.
No,
your game's out, man. But
no.
I'm being the stereotypical person who is excited about Kine but has never but doesn't realize it's already out.
There are quite a few of those actually. Yes, a lot of people are like, "Wow, I've been
people
waiting."
Only play on Steam.
Yeah, that was surprising. And there was like another drum up of like Epic Store backlash stuff. When I posted on Steam, it was small though, so it's fine. Yeah, it's there are people for whom Steam is the only platform, but I am so glad I came out in the Epic Game Store first. It was a good idea. It funded the game, but it does also mean that like I've split the audience, and so now getting a critical mass to like try to chart on Steam is difficult and that sort of thing. And so I'm
the thing is, like, I think a lot of the people who just play games on Steam, it might not even be because they're like, because I hate Epic or whatever. That's just where they play games and they don't know the game's already out, and it's not any more dramatic than that, and then
yeah.
So when it does come along, it's just like, oh, this game, I remember seeing this trailer a long time ago or whatever,
Plus, I think Steam makes it easier to just like be passively interested in a game and wait until it's at a discount and you buy it then.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I don't know if you can wishlist games on the Epic Store, but even if you can, it feels like that's not a thing that as many people are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I could go back and do it again on the Epic Game Store, I would have launched with a free demo right at launch. I think their audience is used to getting a lot of free content. The play on Steam, the play on Epic is very different. My concern with Steam is that because I've split the audience, I'm not going to get a critical mass enough to get into the like popular upcoming or the popular new releases. And if you don't chart there on the front page, that's a major drag because then you can't like, what do you call it? You can't get that kind of like the ball rolling down the hill situation. It doesn't matter if people have heard of the game if they don't see it on the front page, if they haven't wishlisted it yet, you know what I mean? So splitting the audience is bad in some ways. It's good in other ways.
I don't know. Like
they are very different.
Yeah. How many games that came out on Epic have been coming out on Steam so far? Because like that's going to give you some insight into how strong those launches were. And I feel like I haven't seen a game yet that came out on Epic that has bombed when it came out on Steam, but also I wouldn't have noticed. So
Oh, I mean, there are definitely. For one thing, my game is a lot more niche than a lot of the bigger games that came out in the Epic Games Store. I think you could say, Untitled Goose Game launched 2 weeks ago, right?
oh yeah, but that's like an edge case.
Yeah, but I mean, compare their Epic Games Store sales to their Steam sales. Um,
Yeah, so
we were
where
going to
did
put this on Steam, so we should stop talking about this.
well when
Whoops.
that was a gigantic hit, was that mostly on the Switch, or like I don't even know where.
I think it was a hit on
What's your
both.
point with Untitled Goose Game?
I
You're
don't
saying
think
it didn't do great on Steam?
I think it did great. I don't think it did as well as it. How do I put this? I think it did phenomenally well at launch, and that would have been a hard thing to follow up with on Steam. But my understanding was it didn't get like a huge second wind on Steam necessarily, compared to something like, oh, what's a good example? Griftlands did well on the Epic Games Store and then did even better on Steam.
That feels like a bad comparison because Grifflands was early access on Steam, wasn't it? Oh no, on Epic, wasn't it? And it's still early access on Steam. And like that's
okay.
so like you coincide the release on Steam with a big early access update, and that's a bigger marketing beat than like, oh yeah, it's out, but here now. But also, Untitled Goose Game has 1,000 Steam reviews in a week. That's not bad.
Well, yeah.
But compared to like it's a household name. Like it's a thing that it was such a big deal at launch that it was inescapable, and like 1,000 reviews in a week is escapable.
Yeah. It's hard to say because it's a scale of things. But yeah,
I know. I'm basically saying you should be less down about it. I think your Steam launch is going to go decent.
All right. I'm just nervous.
So, Manifold Garden, that came to Steam now, right? Is it?
No, it's coming. I think it's coming around the same time.
I think we've got Manifold Garden and Superliminal and Kine all probably launching around the same time.
Well, that would make sense.
Sojourn also just came
oh
out.
Yeah, Sojourn. That's a good reference point, actually. How did that do? Oh dear. Sorry, Gwen.
What game just came out?
The Sojourn, which is a cool first-person puzzle game that I started playing on Epic. I never got around to finishing it, but it seemed neat.
I didn't play that
but
one.
It's got really mixed reviews.
And only 10 of them.
Of the 10 user reviews. People hate it, huh?
Wow.
I really
like this
streaming
game.
on the internet, Alan.
Well,
personally,
not saying anything that isn't on the internet.
I'm just a messenger, man.
Yeah.
It's a really good game.
You know, I always feel weird.
I liked it.
I feel weird saying
Corey
things.
And I will play it. We'll review it on Steam, and then I'll have 12 reviews.
I bump it up to maybe not.
You know, there was another Sokoban game that came out on, like a block pushing puzzle game that came out on the Epic Games Store. It was really cute. I just started playing it, and I didn't get into it. I didn't feel like they embraced the grid enough. It felt weird. What game am I thinking of?
What does embracing the grid mean for
the grid? The
grid.
It was definitely a grid.
This is a gritty Sokoban reboot.
Yeah, no. If you're not grimdark, get out. Get the hell out. No, it was like you moved to what was it? It was unusual because it felt you could move around in a way that felt freeform. You didn't feel like you were locked to the grid, but the actual when you moved to the puzzle elements, they were locked to the grid, and it didn't. The game feel was off for me. Even if the puzzles were good.
Very curious about this game. I don't think I heard about it.
Yeah, you were talking about it in the Discord. I think it's one of your pinned ones, actually.
one of the.
Oh, you're saying The Last Campfire?
Yeah, The Last Campfire.
On Epic? Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Last Campfire was a really interesting one. Because that was like what's the studio?
Hello Games.
Yeah.
Hello Games.
They made No Man's Sky.
So that's a company that has so much potential momentum behind a game, and then they released it and didn't really seem to hit particularly.
Well, it was well outside their core competency. It's not what they. It's one thing if you want to take your audience and you want to give them, like if they were going to release another game similar to No Man's Sky, that would be one thing. But the people who are into No Man's Sky aren't necessarily going to be into a reasonably challenging grid-based puzzle game. You know what I mean? Also, I looked at that and it was very. I mean, did you get far in it? I'll admit I only put in an hour.
I probably got like 2/3 of the way through. I've been meaning to go back to it.
Was it reasonably difficult?
No, like there's a few spikes, a few difficulty spikes, but broadly the puzzles were pretty pretty basic.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
it definitely
going for variety of mechanics rather than going in depth on any particular one.
which is smart and can work. Like it worked for maybe, well, not really. There wasn't much. I think they were going for something that was atmospheric and pretty and did well based on kind of like a mysterious sort of environmental narrative. In the
Yeah,
same
and that's probably more in common with like Zelda games and Uncharted puzzles and stuff that are usually just like, yeah, it's not the core focus of the game, and it's just like there's maybe one puzzle per mechanic or something, or maybe a bit more. And how much can you explore something when you?
I mean, I don't think I'd put it like that because in Zelda, Zelda was about exploration and also combat, and also there
But
was puzzles.
just the puzzle side of Zelda.
Yeah, so it took but the thing is, if you ask people who play Zelda what they want, it's probably not just rip out all the exploration and the combat and give me just only the puzzles,
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was. I think there is such a thing as a game where
That, but I would love to make a Zelda game with just puzzles.
you need that pacing. How do I put it?
Actually, that's kind of what Cadence of Hyrule is.
I'm sorry, what?
Cadence of Hyrule?
Yeah. Oh, I haven't played it. That's it's rhythm though, right? Like it's very much a rhythm puzzle.
Yeah, like it's rhythm puzzles, but it's like it's combat puzzles rather than combat, if that distinction makes sense. And then the rhythmness means that they can get away with the puzzles not being particularly puzzly.
It's randomly generated, right?
Probably. I don't know for sure.
I mean, at that point, where do you draw the line between puzzle and just kind of strategic arcade game?
We're getting into definitions now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's a puzzle game? I just had to ban somebody from Puzzle Discord for asking that while we were on this chat.
That seems reasonable. You're not allowed to ask these questions. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
it just goes down the rabbit hole it goes down doesn't feel like you just get further and further into the analytical of these things, and it's just like we're not coming out of this with any new information.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think Gris is a game that's beautiful and you can get lost in it, and there are puzzles, but the puzzles are a canvas upon which this weird narrative experience exists. And I think that's probably what they were maybe going for with The Last Campfire, but it didn't quite punch up hard enough in that direction. In my opinion, I didn't think it was like I didn't immediately get lost in the same way I got lost in Gris. But again, I only put an hour into it, so I don't know.
I would say I think The Last Campfire is thinkier than.
Oh yeah.
Then forgive my pretentious pronunciation, but then Gris.
Gris. Excuse me. I think that is the correct way to say it is Gris. Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy it. I played a little bit of Gris, and and I didn't really like it. Just because I mean it's so beautiful, but from a gameplay perspective, like I wasn't really enjoying the platforming. Wasn't really enjoying
It
the
had to be.
puzzles.
It was shallow. It had to be shallow. The gameplay had to be shallow in order to.
And it's like my least favorite or like the worst crime in platformers is like happens a lot in that game where a jump that's impossible to make is like really close. So
Yeah.
you question whether or not it's like you're not getting enough of a running start or whatever it is, and that I don't like.
That's fair. Okay, so a better example, one of my favorites is Inside. That is also a game. It has puzzles. The puzzles aren't that hard at all. The puzzles exist to evoke an emotion, a feeling. They're extremely like there's extreme variety in what the puzzles are, and it's mostly about sinking into an experience. And in that case, the experience is like a horror, a kind of tense kind of experience. You know what I mean? Um, and that is a game where the puzzles exist as a canvas for the experience of the game, as opposed to a game like Zelda, which is a big game with puzzles in it, or a game like a Monsters Expedition, which is just a puzzle game where the experience, I would say the narrative is beautiful. I love the cute little story elements, but they are very much like a wrapper. You could easily move them around from one place to another. It's really sweet, but you probably could have done some completely different, really sweet thing. I mean, you can speak to this. Like, I saw the development of a Monsters Expedition, so I saw the different kind of narratives you tried. But the narrative was more of like it was a wrapper after the puzzles were there, kind of, right?
Yeah. I mean, what's the question?
Uh, I'm just.
A Monsters Expedition versus Inside. What's the difference? Really?
I mean, the difference is that Inside cares about its wrapper more, and the Monsters Expedition cares about its puzzles more.
Or a better way to put it is the puzzles are the wrapper.
Ooh.
Like that's the part you're missing, right? Like the goal was to evoke a feeling, and the puzzles were just a way to do that.
I think Alan described Inside as a roller coaster ride, and like if you don't think of that in a derogatory way, I'm on board with that description.
Yeah, I did.
What do you have against
I'm sure,
roller coasters?
I don't remember if I meant that as derogatory, but I will now claim that it wasn't meant to be derogatory.
It was just like when Martin Scorsese called Marvel movies roller coaster rides. Like a lot of he said they're not movies, they're roller coaster rides or whatever it was, and people got really upset. But like you say, who doesn't like a roller coaster? Like,
yeah, what's
it's
the
not
problem?
a bad thing.
Are we not allowed to have fun anymore, guys? Jeez.
You're right.
Cultured to like roller coasters.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm too cultured to like roller coasters.
Yeah.
I see.
If I'm not bummed out by my experiences, then are they real?
No, but I mean that is kind of what it sounds like if somebody says, "Oh yeah, I couldn't like Marvel films are no good. You should only watch art films." It's kind of the same thing as saying I'm too cultured to ride a roller coaster.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, like they're both fun. They serve different purposes. Uh, but I think all of these games are fun. I'm just not quite sure. So if I was trying to chart different games that consider themselves under the puzzle section of like a storefront, because that means so many different things, and thinky puzzles that lean more on the gameplay and the logic, and where everything else is servicing the gameplay. I don't know if I would consider a Last Campfire to be fitting into that. I think that was kind of like where we started here. We were talking about a Last Campfire for some reason. Like I don't know where to put it on that chart. Like I don't know where they were aiming.
Yeah, I mean, because a Last Campfire is super interesting to me because in its marketing, it is very much pushing itself as a like, oh, here's a cool narrative experience with cool graphics, and then I booted it up, and it's just like, here's a soccer band puzzle, here's a parity, here's this thing, and it's very tonally discordant.
Well,
Like
the marketing was off from what the game experience was, which is
right, which
scary.
I don't think that's a bad idea necessarily. Even like if you can trick people into downloading your game and then your game is good, then then kudos.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you both have heard before, like someone will discover any of the many decent puzzle games out there and be like, "Oh, I really like this. I don't normally play puzzle games. There's not a lot of good puzzle games out there, or whatever." And it's just for not looking hard enough and for not knowing what actually is out there.
Yeah,
So it kind of feels like maybe if you sell something as a puzzle game, people will be like, "Oh," or won't pay attention as much as if you sell it the way that they did.
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely. I think marketing it as this narrative experience is a way of getting more people to try it.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure that worked in the case of The Last Campfire, but it doesn't necessarily mean because the experience when you boot up Last Campfire is so different to what you're expecting. But I'm not sure that it's necessarily a bad approach to try in general.
it may well have done all right on Apple Arcade for sure, where people are also like, "What have you got to lose to try the things?" And
Yeah.
you can't refund a game on Apple Arcade.
Yeah. I think that's one of the fun things about stuff like Game Pass and Apple Arcade is you can get a weird, unusual experience out there, and you won't get quite the same consumer backlash. If you're like, there could be backlash if people were expecting one game and they got a different one. You know what I mean? Like I could see that backfiring pretty hard. But yeah, on Apple Arcade, where people are playing it for free, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. And that would get people to install it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that game specifically is quite interesting to me because it feels like an iPhone game from 5 years ago in a lot of ways. Like if it came out 5 years ago, I feel like we would be having a very different conversation about it. We would kind of expect it to be what it is in a way, but or maybe like slightly longer than 5 years ago. But like I feel like it feels like that kind of you play it on your phone or even like a flash game, like you play it like very casually and like it's a nice pleasant experience with like nice intermissions between puzzles and then some variety of puzzles. And in some senses I feel like it's just a reflection of how good we've had it since the kind of time when that's kind of what you'd expect.
What games lurched us forward? What got us out of that and into where we are now?
I mean you're not paying me enough to answer.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't have any specific games in mind when I say that, but like I just have this like vague sense of like memories of like playing random flash games or playing random iPhone games, and that is more than anything the feeling that The Last Campfire evokes when I play it.
Interesting.
With the AAA thing of taking control away from you constantly throughout.
Yes, that is obviously the best thing about The Last Campfire.
Yeah, is that a AAA thing? I think AAA gets away with it because they have the money to do the cutscenes, and the cutscenes are what sells the. I mean, if you're making a game with the trailer in mind, you're probably making a lot of cutscenes, and then when you try to figure out how to fit that into your, I don't know. We didn't do that at Irrational. That's all I know. We had a pretty hard mandate of never taking the control away from the player, but. At some level, you have to do what sells when you're making games at that scale.
Yeah, that just surprises me that that's anyone's preference. Like we all know about movies, and we can get our fix there of like experiences that aren't interactive.
You say like, that, but like Metal Gear Solid did super well, and people bitch about complain about the cutscenes and things like that, but then they go and they love the games that have them. Like, people are voting with their wallets on that one.
That's interesting.
I mean, like with the kind of taking control away from the player thing that I particularly associate with AAA games, I feel like it's just a very practical thing. Like somebody has decided that the camera needs to show this thing happening at this time or needs to show this cutscene, and then it is easier to know exactly what the camera is going to do before you give control back to the player than have a more complicated system where potentially the player could be moving around while other stuff is going on. Like any one individual case of that is something that you could fix to be better. But if you have to handle it like 100 times across the game, then suddenly that trade-off might not seem worth it, even though I hate it.
I mean, there's just so many things that go into that, especially when you're talking about in AAA development where you have all these different teams. In order to communicate that this moment has to have a feeling and it has to give away these story beats because these story beats are important for the narrative team. It's just
and those beats might inform gameplay also. Like you might need to know about something that if you're facing the wrong way, like you will have missed and you'll be stuck or whatever.
Yeah, and those cutscenes are what you're going to use in your marketing materials. It's what's going to sell the game at some level. So they just like sexy, cool art is what sells games.
Yeah, photorealism.
Don't worry. Soon we'll be worried. We won't be worried about what sells games in that way. Soon we'll be worried about what streams well, and that'll be the only thing that matters. Is how
are we not already at that point?
Oh, I think we already are. We're just I don't know if I mean I don't personally think about it when I work on games, but I guess a lot of people do now. Like why do streamers want to stream this? What is going to make this highly streamable? It's definitely a huge like where the drums are beating in AAA.
Yeah, I've complained about it a lot, but like we're kind of set up to fail with puzzle games in that sense that they're like, well, at least if your puzzle game follows the structure of it's a one-time non-replayable experience where the person playing it might feel vulnerable and might not want to be watched while they're doing it because they feel like their intellect's already being judged by the game, let alone by an audience of people watching. And like, okay, well,
that's where thinky games won't do well, but games that are more experiential, puzzle games in that direction could do quite well because you can just, if it's not a difficult game, if it's not a game where you have to sit down and think, if it's a game where you just experience it and you can stop at any time and interact with the chat, that's actually probably a better thing.
Yeah, but then that kind of game, it'll be like a single linear experience and somebody watches it on Twitch and then doesn't buy it. So lose-lose.
It is true. It has to be something where people see it on Twitch and also want to buy it. I think, yeah.
And I think that actually is somewhere where thinky puzzle games could have an edge if people were streaming them in the first place, which is somebody can watch somebody playing on Twitch and go, oh, I reckon I'm smarter than this guy. I don't know. That's just a theory.
The real trick is like leaderboards or competitive puzzle games of some sort. Someone's going to crack that. The competitive Sokoban.
Yeah, the Sokoban 99.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, that would be doable. You just have a random daily challenge and a timer for how fast you did it. And that's not exploitable at all by somebody playing on one device and then playing on another.
Maybe. Yeah. I think more, yeah. That's not directly competitive enough. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Oh shit.
Maybe things will shift and maybe something will shift and there'll be like a whole new thing that sells games in a couple of years' time, because like when have things not just kept changing? And I don't know what that thing would be, but
Oh, I'm sure. Like we're there's just so many things going on right now that'll change the industry in so many ways.
Hmm.
Between we're moving to subscription services, uh, how is that going to change games? Games that are subscription. If you put yourself in Microsoft's shoes, what they want is they want to keep their customers continuously spending money each month. So now games that have retention of some sort, games that encourage people to come back and play over and over are the ones that Microsoft really wants. It's also what Apple Arcade really wants. So at that point, what do we do? Do we make our games episodic? If you want to make single player experiences?
Do Microsoft actually care about replayable games on Game Pass, or do they just want variety?
Right now, they just want variety. I mean, maybe they won't care, but I think it's inevitable that if you have a subscription service and if your goal is to get people to continuously subscribe, then having a game that people continuously engage in is a good idea. I mean, I can definitely see your argument so long as they continuously have new content. That's another way to do it. But
Yeah, I mean, Game Pass is actually an interesting example because, like Apple Arcade had Grindstone, and I had a lot of people saying, "Oh man, I want to keep playing this, and if I could just buy it, I would. But since I can't buy it, I guess I'll just have to stay subscribed to Apple Arcade." Um, Whereas Game Pass, all the games on there, as far as I know, every game is buyable separately.
mhm. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Microsoft's trying a lot of things simultaneously.
Hmm.
And they are not. I think Apple is definitely swinging. They saw what happened with Grindstone, and they're definitely swinging for more games like that. That's what I sense. I don't. I think Game Pass right now is attempting to get like one one game of every type, every kind of gamer. Give everybody a reason to want to purchase Game Pass.
Hmm.
Um, I
You
think
just go to the amount of volume that you have on something like Netflix, where it's just there's always new content, and it's not like there's always something new to consume, and that you don't even people don't think to cancel their Netflix subscription because like there's always and obviously replayability is not as much of a thing with TV and movies. So.
that's true. And I mean, the other thing is, it's possible that they just are very different markets. The market for somebody who wants an iPhone game is like, I want something that I'll play. This will be the game that I go to when I'm in my commute. Whereas, I'll say I'm not that gamer. When I play a game, I want to sit down and play a game, and then I want it to end, and then I want to play another game. And so for me, Game Pass makes more sense. And so having a variety of content and constantly having fresh content is an interesting way to go. But I just feel like some part of me senses that if Telltale was around today, Telltale would be a great thing for Microsoft to buy. Like
Yeah,
Microsoft would purchase Telltale if they existed today. I mean, I've got nothing to go on. I just feel like that would be true because I feel like if I was in charge of Game Pass, I would want Telltale specifically to make episodic games so that I captured those people because that's such a great that's the kind of thing where it's like, oh, I have this studio and they're constantly making they have an audience that wants these games and that audience will stay because they want that episodic content. Um, and to me, I mean, this is just purely guesswork, but I feel like episodic games could make a comeback because of something like Game Pass.
that makes sense.
I don't think puzzle games are well positioned to capitalize on that. That's just something that I think would be interesting for the industry.
Well, you can make anything episodic, right? I don't know, I guess.
You could. Oh wait,
Like
it's
Hitman did really well with the episodic format, and I feel like a lot of people probably would have predicted otherwise. And
yeah.
I don't know.
I definitely I've definitely thought about it. Like
Yeah,
especially on Steam, would it be fun to just launch don't even think of it as episodes, think of it as like launch a sequence of games that are $5 each standalone. Um
that are
just
just
repeatedly.
and each episode is a sequel. You just
Yeah,
like
basically.
right. It comes down to just how you want to frame it. It's still the same thing.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. That goes back and forth though. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to know the future. And like Alan said, everything changes every 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like um, you've you've gotten more cynical because I feel like a couple of years ago you were saying, Oh yeah, in 5 years' time, it's gonna be like thinky puzzle, grid-based games all over the place. It's gonna be resurgent.
We still gotta bring it.
Now,
Yeah, man. We gotta. This is the wave, man. It's gonna
it's the
happen.
wave. This is the wave.
Hey.
Future historians are gonna look back on this video call as the tipping point.
I don't know. I think it's cool. Like I think I've noticed a lot more highly polished Sokoban games lately.
Well,
Like,
it'd be really interesting to see what happens when John Blow's new game comes out, because that's when it's like this thing that is clearly going to have a lot of eyeballs on it and is just the same format as so many other games that have gone under the radar. It'd be interesting to see how that's received and whether or not there's like a wave of, you know, games like it from developers who just don't even know these games exist yet.
well, yeah, especially because he's releasing the
there
tools.
was like a wave of Witness-like games, right?
It's still happening.
Is there a wave of Witness-like games? I haven't noticed. Maybe that's a sign that that's not the most beneficial thing. I mean, is there really?
I mean, depends what you define as a wave, but like, I'm sure there are more first-person puzzle games where you're wandering around an island solving puzzles than there would have been if that game had never existed.
Probably, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And just like for a while there, it was like after Portal, there was a lot of Portal likes that a lot of games were being called Portal like that were then didn't have the like physical, like the moving around part of it, or like the like exhilarating, you know, I'm flying through the air aspect of that distinguishes Portal.
The thing that makes Portal good is the writing, the atmosphere. The puzzles were not a wrapper, but the puzzles were not the. If that game was only puzzles, it wouldn't be good. It was good because of everything else, the humor, the writing, the.
It's a package for sure.
It's a package, yeah. Like that's a game that nailed it, man. And yeah, it's not easy to nail it quite that well. But I think the Sokoban game Blow is doing is the thing that'll be interesting about that is releasing the tools and the fact that he's leaning so hard into getting so many people excited about using those tools. And I think that could inspire a wave. Just because like you make the game as quickly as you can with what you have, and if you're providing people with like here's the framework to make the game and all the code, I think that it would make sense that there'd be a bunch of games built off of that.
I have nothing to say about that.
Anyway, yeah, sorry. New topic. I have to edit this for the podcast too. So I was going to put this on Steam, but then we started talking about.
We can wrap it up.
Oh, we should wrap it up. That's right. Well, this is. Thank you everybody for listening. This has mostly been a talk where we show our upcoming releases. Please do check out Bonfire Peaks by Corey Martin. Go give that a wish list on Steam. Please check out A Monster's Expedition by Alan Hazelden. That just launched 2 weeks ago. It is actually really fun to play. It's very, it's like a good, if the day has been a little bit long and heavy for you lately, you can sit down and chill out. There's a really charming game that's really light and playful and fun. It'll get your mind off of things. It'll keep you quite engaged. I really, really like A Monster's Expedition.
It's absolutely a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite games of all time.
Damn. And yeah, I mean, I need to play it more. I've only like 4 hours in, but it is a really good game.
How far did you get, Gwen?
I'll talk to you about that after this. And then this, and if you could do me a favor and go wishlist Kine on Steam. It is launching October 19th, so I'm very close and I really could use your wish lists. And yeah, sign up for the LabRat beta if you haven't yet. It's at labrat.study. I know that's a lot of action items and we give you a lot of homework, but we've got a lot going on.
Please play every puzzle game that comes out in the next 20 years. That's all.
Yes, we are pushing the Thinky puzzle games. I maintain that we need to change the branding for that. Thinky puzzle games is the dumbest branding. Can we come up with
open to suggestions, but
logical puzzlers, brain problems? I'm big on brain problems. Brain problems. Come on.
Brain problems.
Brain problems. Yes, it's
Brain
funny.
problems.
Come on. We have brain problems, Alan.
Good games.
Great games.
No, too Tetrisy.
Yeah, and it could be like, that doesn't say that it's like a logical puzzler. We need something that's like, you have to think to do this, but not thinky, because that's weird.
The podcast of this should just be slowly fading out as we discuss this.
You're like editing the podcast. You can't edit the podcast while we do this.
I can, because we fade to 0 before I make that statement.
I see.
Or we just keep this all in and it's gold. Like, either way.
All right. This has been Gwen Frey and Corey Martin and Alan Hazelden, and you've been in the Dialogue Box. Okay, now we can talk with the chat.
Someone asked how Monster did streaming, and okay, like, the people who are streaming it seem to like it, and their audience seems to like it. It hasn't really hit any big name streamers, and that's kind of what I would have expected. It's definitely a better stream game than Cosmic Express or Snowman. Or
Snowman did pretty well with big name streamers though, and like
Snowman
YouTubers.
Got lucky with timing. Like there was just a few. There were less games coming out, and so people were probably more willing to just try random cool looking games that come out on Steam, where now there's just such a flood.
Alan, does your shirt actually say Alan on it? Can you please stand up for a second?
Can you read the bottom?
No, what does it say? In space, no one can hear you. Space?
In space, no one can hear you in space.
Amazing.
All right, Hazelden.
Let me find the link. Somebody sent me the link for where I could purchase it and told me that I needed to purchase it.
God damn it. The whole plan was to cut this and put it on like a video of a Kine playthrough for the Steam Festival. And then we launched into talking about the Epic Store. And that's like the one thing, it occurred to me right as we were wrapping that up, like that's the one thing we were not allowed to do.
You got some
not allowed to do.
No, we're like we're not supposed to talk about the Epic Store on Steam.
I think that you are one, Steam isn't gonna know. And two, the rule is against like promoting your game and like telling people, hey, go play this on Epic. The rule isn't deny that the Epic Store exists.
Well, you're not supposed to promote the store in any way.
You just dub something else in every time that one
I was
of us
instructed
says.
not to mention that Kine can be purchased on the Epic Store, for instance, because it's rude to have your demo in the Steam Festival and have Steam promote your game and then be like, you can buy it right now in this other store. That's like,
I feel like our discussion was very like inside baseball rather than, hey, go play my game.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, let's just start over.
All right, I'll hit the restroom. We'll begin again. This time, just chill constantly.
I mean, I said before, I feel like just streaming this unrelated conversation over footage of your game is kind of weird anyway.
Yeah, but like what am I
really,
gonna?
We should be like talking about the playthrough or something, or like analyzing the level design of the levels as they come up, or like you'd be like giving like a what's the term? Brain blank. Like a dev commentary mode, but it's on Twitch rather than through the game.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it that bad of an idea to just like have the game streaming with the game audio and like this is just for us?
No, I could.
I
I still gotta figure out what to do for Steam. I won't be putting this in Steam, I don't think. We'll just hang out here. This will just be for the podcast. Yeah, I'll probably just I could just play the game and not record myself. Right? Is that enough? I don't know how to do things.
Isn't like most people that see it, it's because they like are on the store and they see it for a few seconds while they're like it's almost in the way.
Yeah,
like
I actually don't like this feature on
we had
Steam.
from streaming during the last Steam Game Festival. Didn't we find that like your two games had like a dozen people watching at a time on Steam, and Monsters Expedition, because it was like featured as having more excitement, or like it had more, maybe it was because it was manually whitelisted as like a game to go higher up in the carousels or something. But then when we streamed that game, it had more people watching.
I mean, there's what I was told to do was stream the entire time. Something that's looping. Somebody works at Valve.
But unofficially, right?
No.
Told officially or unofficially?
Officially. Sophie is like, I harassed Sophie and I was like, you can't tell me you can't give me any favoritism, but I'm about to launch a game in 2 weeks. If you were launching a game in 2 weeks, what would you do? And she's like, here's what I would do. I would stream 24/7.
There's definitely no like official on the like help pages suggestions to, hey, you should stream 24/7. Like I think the official advice would be, oh, you should time your broadcast for when you've got something that is live that people can talk to you.
I was told, I mean, to be fair, it's like not like I know anything that Alden hasn't said in his webcasts and stuff. You can do looping streams. It is a good idea. The things that'll be highlighted, I mean, all I'll get is like the 13 people or whatever that
right, but I think the 13 people were just the people who happened to be on the store page at that time.
I think so,
and
too.
That's actually a disincentive to me, because when I go to a store page and then like it loads, you know how it loads, and then a few seconds later the video just sweeps up.
Yeah,
annoys me every time.
I don't like it either. It's really irritating.
Like Corey and I haven't discussed this yet, but I was chatting with my producer about this, and I was saying, I mean, yeah, I guess we could do a stream for Bonfire Peaks, but I don't actually know if it would be like worth it.
Might be fun though. I'll play Bonfire Peaks if you guys want to hang out and like, because the one thing that does get featured, because you were right, is if you get an event and it happens to get whitelisted. And so if we make it an event on the event page and then it gets whitelisted, that could get us to the top of the Steam Festival.
I think really what you want to do is make it an event, but not just an event, but like an event. Like you want to be streaming 24/7, like, and actually be there breaking down in front of your computer. That's going to draw in the viewers. That's
a very Twitch thing. God, that always creeped me out when I first found out about Twitch. And I remember I went onto the game dev channel and there's this one guy who's just like, I'm really tired and hungry, guys. I'm just really tired and hungry. And he just looks so sad. And I was like, this is not like the performative game dev shit you see on Twitch is just awful. That's not what dev is. Also, like he had a little thing at the bottom so you could like buy him dinner. If you clicked it, you could like send him a pizza. And he was just kind of like begging for people to send him food. I'm like, what the fuck dystopian future are we headed for? Several things here. Several.
Is it performance art, maybe?
Yeah, well, it's performative game dev, I think, or something. Like it's a... Well, yeah, because I mean, there's a difference between being a streamer and being a developer. And you can be a streamer that's also a developer, but you could also just be a streamer where your shtick is you do game development. And every now and then you come across one of those, and it's bizarre. Like, it's most of the time you see people who are, you also just have the devs that are just like turned on a camera and they're like, is this marketing? Which is, to be fair, I was one of those people, so I'm not going to shit on that. Like that's how I got started. I was like, maybe if I just put a camera on me while I work, this will be marketing. And I just didn't talk to the chat, and it was just like nobody watched my channel really because I didn't know what I was doing. Anyway, yeah, you run the whole spectrum. But yeah, the end of the spectrum that creeps me out, that really skews me out, is like the performance artists that are like performing game dev. And you'll know them.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, there's all kinds of things. There's people who grow in pot. There's weird sex stuff. Like Twitch is like a whole spectrum. It's like the internet. It's got it all.
Wonderful.
Yeah. The internet is wonderful.
Is it though?
Yes. Where would we be without the internet? Think about how much life has changed.
We wouldn't be doing this.
We sure
We would
wouldn't.
not. No.
I mean, yeah, like literally every one of my marketing skills depends on technology. So without the internet, I suspect, yeah, I'd probably just be sad and depressed.
You'd be negotiating with Walmart to sell the Monsters Expedition.
No, see, I wouldn't be making games if the internet wasn't a thing.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now we've gone, I don't even know how far off the rails we are at this point.
We're not. This isn't in the podcast. We're fine. We can talk about anything.
Great.
Within reason.
We should record a different intro that actually introduces ourselves and then cut that into the beginning of the podcast because I just love giving Gwen more work.
We could. I did like your opening. I didn't think it was that bad, actually. Do you want to do a different intro, like right now?
No, I just thought it was funny that like 15 minutes in, you were like, oh yeah, we haven't actually explained any of our projects.
It'll be a weird podcast. Whatever. I don't know. That's fine. 15 minutes in, that's got a good lead in. It's got a good teaser. This is why I do it. This is why I have Chris Slight with the podcast. He actually has like a, like a cadence.
He keeps you to schedule.
Well, at least he keeps the conversation flow going and at least does an intro. And also he cuts the podcast. Whereas like I can't ask him to cut it if he's not in it. So
I should listen out for that when I'm listening to the podcast. Like, can I notice a difference in editing?
Oh, well, yeah, in that there is any would be the difference. Like I usually just clip the VOD and then put it forward, whereas he will like cut it.
I think that's fine. I mean, like Chris, you're great and your work is appreciated, but also just half-ass things more. You can get away with it.
Yeah.
Don't try so hard.
This is Alan's pushing hard for the acceptance of mediocrity today.
I mean, if I push everyone else to be mediocre, then I can stand out more by being great.
Mm-hmm. Just don't listen to your own advice.
Oh, I'm way too much of a perfectionist to listen to that advice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so yeah, I'm prepping Kine for the Steam launch, and I'm like, I'm gonna redo the marketing copy for the middle, like the description of the game.
I'm going to ping you about that, actually. Your current marketing copy is not good.
So bad, I know.
Is it? What marketing copy do you have on the Epic Store?
The same thing.
Now.
That's the thing. I wrote it like...
You wrote it while you were burnt out finishing the game, right?
Yeah. Before that, I think. Like, I wrote it...
Oh, well then what's your excuse?
Well, I put that up. Like, I had the Steam page up, and I gave it to Epic for them to put in their store, and they translated it when I announced the game. And I was like, well, shit, I can't ask them to translate it again. I guess we'll just go with it. And then... And it hasn't changed. Not a single fucking word. And that's rude. I should really fix this. But I'm like, who reads, right? Everybody just looks at trailers. Does it matter?
I mean, actually, that's interesting because Corey and I have now done 2 rounds of iteration on the Bonfire Peaks store copy, and our first iteration was very much words hard, just do GIF.
And now it's all lorem ipsum. And, it's doing great. Now it's much more wordy.
Much more wordy, and I don't know how I feel about that. Actually, I guess I will see if
I will say you have a unique. I don't know if it's because I'm comparing your storefront to storefronts that are older, and generally don't have as many GIFs. But you definitely have a lot of GIFs. You have a GIF heavy focus. You
should record some GIFs. I'm telling you, like this is not my idea. this is something that I've seen suggested, and like it. I mean, who knows if like correlation or like stats or anything, but like I've seen it on people's store pages and thought, oh yeah, that works well. Like it's basically just a way to get another 3 looping videos on your store page, and a looping video is always going to be more compelling than just a wall of text.
Oh yeah, sure.
And like it's another place where you can like explain the game, and like a GIF is going to like, especially for Bonfire Peaks and Kine and a Monsters Expedition. Like I don't know
you
about
explain it
puzzle games
visually.
generally. Like a GIF is going to explain what this game is and how you play it much faster than a wall of text is.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut together GIFs tonight. I'm gonna update the Steam page tonight and maybe into tomorrow, so that it's ready before the festival. I also have to figure out what we're doing, what I'm gonna stream over the festival, but I guess I have the weekend to do that.
I really vote for just gameplay, if anything, or nothing.
Yeah.
But also, you're a pro. Don't let me tell you what to do.
No, I have no idea what I'm doing.
I feel like you like if you want to spend a day like recording an hour-long gameplay video and then figuring out how to stream it on loop, then spend that day. But like you're probably not going to have any stats on whether it actually worked or not. Which so depending on whether you want that validation of having done something and then seeing some benefit from that, or whether you just want to do it and cross your fingers, or whether you want to not do it and then go, oh, it probably wouldn't have been worth it. Like just as long as you're happy.
Multiple people have recommended it at this point, so I'm gonna do it. See what it does. Like, I have a day, I'll do it. It's a thing to do. I mean, it's not more important than getting cloud saving working. I should probably get cloud saves working. Like that seems
cloud saves are easy unless you fuck it up, which is very easy to do.
Thank you, Alan. Let's just say, why don't you tell us about saves, Alan?
That's that priceless wisdom that we keep going back to Alan for.
Oh my god.
That's what I'm here for. If you want something pithy yet incredibly unhelpful.
Yeah. I mean, I won't claim to know what I'm doing here, but yeah, I should. I think the action items for me are still like, it's a handful of things to get done just for Steam, like cloud saves, and I've got to rewrite the marketing copy, and that takes me like days.
Oh, I hear ya. I hear ya.
The thing is, I just got off doing this with LabRat, and I feel like I spend more time talking about making games than making games right now, and I don't like that, Alan. Like I need to.
Well, and also, then everything's like sitting right with you at 11 p.m. and then the next morning you read it and then you're like, this is all terrible. And it's just like, I don't know. That's at least my constant experience with writing words down.
Yep.
We're
like politicians. We spend at least half our time campaigning.
Bring on the brainwave communication.
Yeah, this is the game. Is that what you're saying?
I was thinking, I was thinking like just one-to-one communication, but I guess, for our needs, we would need it to be just broadcasting buy this game into somebody's head.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure some Silicon Valley is working on that for sure.
Just to get, how can we get GIFs in people's heads? That is.
It's interesting. Do you think in pictures or do you think in a language? You think in a language, unless you're deaf. It's a trick question. This is a known thing. We all think in a specific language. The only, except for people who are born deaf who actually think in pictures, which is really interesting. Anyway, we should probably start our days. I don't know if you guys have anything to do today. I know Alan doesn't. He's done, but... Have you started having people harass you for your next game yet? Like, what are you going to do next, Alan?
I mean, now that you've said that, chat is going to do it.
Or you can just throw Bonfire Peaks at that for a while.
That's true. Yeah. Like I announced a new game less than a month after releasing a Monsters Expedition. That's not bad. In fact, it's not my game. It's just like you can't be picky about that. I mean, you know, I've got Monsters Expedition yearly DLC for the next 10 years. I've got Monsters Expedition porting to the Commodore 64, to Stadia. I've got Soccer Bond Mobile coming 2015, according to a website at some time.
There's big investment in mouse pads that you're making. I've heard mouse pads are making a comeback as far as like company branded merch.
Yeah. What else have I got going? I mean, I've got my publishing empire that's just getting rolling.
I mean, it's not the worst idea to launch a game every 6 months or so, and if you can accomplish that by publishing somebody else's game while you work on one. I mean, the downside is this is the least fun work. Like,
right, that's the thing. Like, if I did that, then I would just become a biz dev person and I wouldn't have time to make my own game.
Yeah.
And like Bonfire Peaks, I'm getting around that by hassling Corey with level ideas, which for the last couple of weeks has been a lot of fun. But like, yeah, I don't have the bandwidth to do that on Bonfire Peaks and do the stuff I need to do for Monsters Expedition, let alone a new game. So I don't know. Like I do have that dilemma a lot of like I'm okay at biz dev, but I also can't imagine not doing another game of like a creative director role and level design role.
It's
and like
not
biz dev plus level design plus game design plus creative direction is too much, but I'm too much of a control freak to let any of them go.
I know this feeling very well. Yeah. And it's hard to figure out how to survive as a business too, like, because all your contacts go cold if you only launch a game every 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean? So every time you're climbing a mountain from the base of the mountain again, like building a press list again and so forth.
God, building that damn press list.
Oh.
So much of a fine thing.
Elliot makes a good point in chat that you can just hire people who are good at biz dev to do those things.
Let me spell it out again, Elliot. Control freak.
Oh, I've never been able to successfully hand off a lot of the biz dev stuff. Like,
yeah, like it requires so much trust and like
it requires a deep understanding of the game. That like somebody who you're paying to just drop in won't have, right? Like you can't. I have never successfully had somebody write what do you call it, a press release for me. Like I always have to go rewrite it, like every time, because it's just not. It does not describe the game. You know what I mean?
I mean, so like right now, I'm hiring a producer, and she's been great, and like writing press emails is like one of the things she does to help that be not a thing that I'm going to spend a day doing when she can do it in half an hour. But you're right. Like I still need to go over it. Still need to like rephrase parts, and like honestly it would have been fine. I could have just pushed it out, but no, I have to redo parts of it.
How are you so Draknek, your company, are you gonna keep growing it? Are you gonna keep it the current size? Do you have enough income to keep it about the same size? Or I don't know how you're structured.
I mean, the structure is Draknek is just me. Yeah. And then there's contractors. And right now we have like Seren, the producer, is going to be on like at least until we launch on console. because like, yeah, I don't want to release a video game on a console without somebody who's done that before, like walking me through steps and like just taking some of the bureaucracy away. And then yeah, we've got some programmers still working on the game, like there's patches and other stuff that needs doing, but like that is mostly just going to be like one person part-time, like for a while, I reckon. But yeah, like it's in terms of what the company looks like, it's just like support for Monsters Expedition right now. Plus that producer who's like prepping for releases and helping with support and helping with Bonfire Peaks.
Yeah, I want a producer. Never thought I'd say those words.
I immediately have felt like I'm so glad Serena's around. Like just to okay, you know what you're doing, great. You know, you clear up all the pitfalls of things that you would rather avoid because somebody else has already fallen in them.
Yeah, we need like a
Ponky, nobody has any idea what a producer job. The job of a producer is to do stuff that nobody notices.
Well, there's a much more defined role in most studios, though. For indie producers are very different because it's way more biz dev. Like a producer, the way it's usually used, the way I've always heard it used, does not do the kinds of things Seren does. What Seren does is very much marketing and biz dev.
Yeah, I mean, producer is like also like just it's a meaningless term because it means 100 different things to different people. Like like Monsters Expedition, Seren has been very hands off in the actual production side of the project. Because like there were points on in the development where we had a producer who was more focused on like managing the team and like making sure everyone was working on the right stuff. But also we had that at a time where the production was so much more of a mess that it was kind of needed. Mm-hmm. Whereas once we hit our stride, like basically the last year, we weren't in a position where, well, I mean, I say that. I basically at that point I was being the producer, and obviously that's one more role on my to-do list, which is not great for my time delegation. But
and at that point, it basically amounts to like you make a judgment call about whether or not something is worth cutting for scope or whatever, right?
I mean, that's part of it. It's a lot of it is even more involved than that. It's like keeping track of what people are working on and keeping track of, should you be working on that or should you be working on that? Or it's like, oh, hey, there's this bug that got logged a week ago. Is anyone actually tracking that? And that's the kind of stuff that probably I should have tried to delegate more than I did. But you only really need that once your team is past a certain size, like because you're both solo developers. I guess it's
this time I've at least I started this one out with Lucas. I have to be careful not to say solo developer anymore, but
that's true. I guess I mean like the core of the
small,
like because like you're the only one touching the code.
That's true. That does make it a lot easier. Yeah. I gotta figure out what I want to do with Chump Squad long term. I think I'll probably do something similar to what you're doing right now. Contractors and solo dev, and then eventually figure out, sole proprietor with contractors throughout Lab Rat, and then we'll see about growing or something. I'll also see where we'll be in 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've always said that I wouldn't want the pressure of having employees. And to some degree, that's like not really fair on contractors to say, "Oh no, I'm not going to like employ you to a degree that you'd have like rights or benefits." But like also like yeah, the relationship of okay, this is a contracting gig and it will probably terminate at some point feels much more true to the reality of like okay, well I don't like I like if I had to go, okay, well, there'll definitely be work for you in 6 months. That's like not the kind of pressure that would be good for me. I would just like crumble and
Oh yeah.
cry.
Yeah, it's a well, there's a huge responsibility, and like you owe it to anyone you employ to
Right.
give them work. And then when you contract someone, some people prefer to stay as a contractor, and it's not about denying them rights, but more about clear communication that you're like, I'm not, so you don't have to lay someone off, and you're just like, okay, well, that's the end of this project.
Yeah. I mean, in AAA, we're starting to see something like Ghost Story does project hires. So you have a full-time job for the several years it'll take to make whatever Ken Levine is making. And then that's that. Uh, and this helps with the simple fact is that you need a bulk of people in the, especially for games with a lot of art in them, you just need a large mass of people, about like the 3/4 of the way through production, like for the end bit. You kind of like the way you need a small number of people to define the vision, and then you ratchet up, especially you turn on the hose as far as art goes. You need a ton of people. Then you need those people to all go away, so that you can lock content and bring it to the consoles, and then eventually you need all those people to go away. And then unfortunately the people you need at the very beginning and the end, those are the same people generally. So there's going to be a natural arc. And so the only thing you can do if you're in AAA is to hire staff up and then either move them onto another project that's also happening at your studio, or lay everybody off, or leverage contracting and outsourcing as much as possible. Maybe do project hires. Like you got to find a way to deal with that inevitable
to,
hump.
to feed the beast, as I've heard say about it. It
Well,
sounds gross.
feed the beast is more like, if you have a game. The games that don't struggle with this are games with like ongoing content, Destiny, games where you're launching DLC all the time. That's where you get to have a stable team the whole time through. But that has its own problems because the kind of people who want to work on who want to develop IP and make a new game are usually not the same people that want to sustain a game. Those are just very different skill sets. They appeal to different people. This is getting very in the weeds on random shit. We should actually probably go do our stuff, whatever we're doing today, I think. Again, I don't know if you guys have...
It's evening for me. All I gotta do is reply to an email that I've been staring at for too long.
Okay, well, Alan will stay on the stream. Gwen and I will be on our way, and chat. Keep Alan busy, please. He needs it.
I'm the one streaming. I have to turn it off, Corey.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah,
I'm not a streamer.
Alan has to learn to stream from his own phone, laptop, whatever you're on there.
Oh, it's just my laptop.
Yeah.
It's just bad because my laptop camera's bad.
It works. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody in the chat.
Yeah, so long.
Etragon, Port Ponky. And thanks for hanging out with me, you two.
Bye all.